Welcome to What Not to Do. I'm Kyle Schmitz, and this is episode 44. I've got Karla Brooks with me here today. She is one of the founders of It Makes Me Happy, and her great purpose is to help others find their purpose. If you give her an inch, she'll take a mile, but the good news is she'll take you with her in her orange BMW. You're going to love this conversation. Hold tight. We'll be right back. One of my biggest aims in life is to give you more in use value than I take in cash value. And I'm so thankful for all the thoughts and ideas you've shared with me on how I can better do that. One of those ideas that has come up on a few different occasions has been, we love the long form conversational format, but sometimes it takes a while just to get through even one episode. What would it look like to aim for episodes that are 1 hour or less in length without compromising the format? And I thought, great idea. I love the long conversational format too, and I really want those conversations to be as accessible and easy to digest as possible. So I'm absolutely pumped to introduce a new innovation of what not to do. We'll keep the long form conversational format that has been so well received, and we'll divide it into 30 to 45 minute segments that'll make it more easy to digest on your morning commute or working out at the gym or run or hanging out at the house. This is going to be awesome. I'm so pumped to keep giving you such high value conversations, and now more accessible and easier to digest than ever. I'm so proud to be your guys' host and so thankful for all your help innovating and iterating to make this community even better. I love you guys. And with that, let's get to what not to do. All right. So I'm at Copper State Brewing Company, one of my favorite places in town, and I have the Karla Brooks with me. She's a creator, and she loves to have fun, and if you were to take away any one of those, your life would be pretty miserable. So, but Karla, thank you so much for hanging out with me this afternoon and being willing to share your story. I'm excited.
Thanks. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Yeah. Are you nervous?
I am a little bit nervous. Yeah, but we're sitting down and your smile is great, so I'm good.
Stop that. Please, no more. Well, the good news is that you've got your favorite afternoon cocktail, right?
I do.
What is that?
I do. Diet Coke and cherry juice.
There you go. Come on. We love it. And I'm sipping on a good, it's called a peanut butter or chocolate coffee peanut butter porter. So it's a heavier beer, but John's got he's the owner and brewer here. He was actually episode 4. This is just a really phenomenal job. So it smells like peanut butter, but doesn't like. You think blending those three things, like, would that really be that good in a beer? That's nice. So it's great. So
excellent.
Yeah. Well, this is awesome. So we connected on LinkedIn. This is the first time that we're sitting down in person together, and I'm excited. I forget how we connected. I'm not sure if I reached out to you or vice versa. But I read a story about something that you're involved in called It Makes Me Happy.
Yes.
And it seems like it started with a handful of friends some years ago, and the story kind of took me in. It was fascinating. So, but before we get to that, because I'll have you share it, I would love for you just to, with our listeners, help them get to know you. Who's Karla? And I'm sure aside from who you're going to share this with in your network and maybe our overlapping network, people might not know who you are, and so they would have never known that you were a creator and love to have fun, right? So tell us, who's Karla?
Well, the people that know me know that I do like to create and have fun, and I will say my mom calls me an instigator. And from a very young age, I have always been an instigator. I went to Catholic school, and I'd have great ideas that I'd share with the boys, and they would get in trouble. So I essentially turned that into a career, just creating. So I grew up in Wrightstown along the Fox River, carp fishing, playing softball on the back street. I waitressed for Friday night fish fries at the American Legion. Had a great life. I have tons of cousins and aunts and uncles. Unfortunately, a lot of the aunts and uncles have passed away, but I'm still close with my cousins, close with the people in my hometown. So I've just been really blessed that way. And I will say I've always had a love for art and creating, and I was going to be the girl that became an artist, worked for an agency in a big city, and moved, far, far away. Well, I moved about 20 miles away in Green Bay. I have been fortunate enough to work for a Chicago advertising agency, and for a while had an art licensing agent on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan.
Cool.
And I found that, from Green Bay, I can travel to anywhere in the world. So it's a really great place to be.
It is. I mean, I'm born and raised here, but I spent about 8 years out in Minneapolis. Nice city. We're just not big city folks, and it's like you come back here, it has everything that you want, but it's small, it's accessible, there's no traffic, and you can get anywhere you want to, right? I mean, it's
exactly.
Just exactly what you just said. It's a fun dynamic, which is cool. So.
Yeah, I remember growing up as a kid. My dad is a huge football fan and still goes to the games with my sister. Yeah, absolutely. He was at the Ice Bowl as well, and I was never a big fan. To get his attention, I'd stand in front of the TV. But the cool thing was, during the football games, my mom and I, we'd get out of the house and go shopping, and it was great. There was no one, there wasn't even malls back then. But
yeah, and there aren't malls today, right?
Well, that's a good point.
True. It's interesting dynamic too, but oh, that's so much fun. Well, that's cool, and Green Bay's changed so much. I mean, there's maps of the area behind us, aerial maps, and it's just, and even now, even over the past 10 years, the city's really, really cultivating, and obviously the Packers have a lot of pull with that, which is really, really cool. Yeah. But then I think in a lot of ways it's helping folks to see, hey, Green Bay is a great place to live. Right?
It is.
And you're born and raised here, and what can you contribute to the community here, and what could you build a business? Like, what do you have to offer? And you don't have to necessarily go out to New York, although you could, and that's a great thing. You don't have to go to Chicago, you could, that's a great thing. But what could you do here in town? And that's exciting. So.
And I would say this was the fourth season. I rent my home out for Airbnb.
Yeah.
And I have met people literally every single year from around the world that come to Green Bay for the game. And their first view of Lambeau Field, because oftentimes they'll drop people off at the game, and they are just absolutely ecstatic. So there is that sense of pride being from Green Bay.
That's cool. It's a fun dynamic, and is your home close to the stadium?
It's really not. I live in Alloway, but
cool.
Highway 172, you can get anywhere in Green Bay in 10 minutes, and that's what I share with the guests as well.
Fun. That's awesome. That's actually fascinating too, because that's Airbnb and those short-term rentals, like that's a niche market that's really taking off. It's really fascinating, and the different business models that are coming from that. It's fascinating. How long have you been doing the Airbnb thing?
This was my fourth season.
Sweet, that's so cool.
Yeah, I started traveling through Airbnb, and then decided to open up my house. And really, what that does is it feeds my travel fix as well.
Yeah.
So, and it's just
makes you get out and
Yeah, and it's wonderful to meet the people, and they're always just so excited to be here.
That's very, very cool. Are you married?
I am not married. I was married for many years.
Yeah.
I have a son who's 23.
Awesome.
He is finishing his last semester at Iowa State in mechanical engineering, and we're flying out on Saturday. He's already landed his dream job, so we're flying out to Houston to find an apartment for him, and we're going to meet his new boss. He actually invited me to lunch with his new boss.
Cool.
He did say, "Don't embarrass me," and I shared with him that I've been working professionally for over 30 years, so I'll try my best.
All right, Mom, come on. That's so funny. That's great. What is it actually, Houston proper, or is it a suburb that he's going to be in?
It's Bay City.
Okay.
Bay City.
Where's that?
It's about 80 miles. I don't know which direction. I'm rather directionally challenged, so I appreciate Google, but it's about 80 miles away from the city.
Cool. I've got friends, friends and relatives in Houston. They grew up in the Woodlands, which is about 45, 50 minutes north of the city, and then I've got some friends that are in southwest suburbs. So fun place. That's cool.
Yeah,
very, very
I'm
cool.
excited.
For your son. Yeah.
New place for me.
That's so exciting. Well, and it's you get to go and explore and visit when you get Airbnb and kick yourself out of your own house.
Exactly.
It's cool. So that's awesome. And a fun thing. I think if I recall right, you said orange is your favorite color.
Orange is my favorite color.
So our listeners won't see this, but she's got this wonderful orange folder. She also drives an orange BMW, which is fun. And if I heard right, that was part of a vision from back in the day and came to reality, which is
exactly.
Super cool. So that's fun. If you are in Green Bay and you see an orange BMW driving around, it's probably Karla Brooks. You should beep and say hi. So
I'll wave.
Okay, so you're involved in a few different things right now, right? So kind of give us a day in the life of Karla Brooks. What is it that you do? And then maybe just kind of bring us on the journey of how you got there. Like, what did that timeline look like? From getting the grade school boys in trouble at the Catholic school in North Town to being a creator and having fun your entire life. And I know we were talking off air about you just being very marketing minded and love thinking in those concepts in those ways. So how did you get to where you are today? So yeah, what is it that you do, and then how did you get there?
Well, I will share. I continue to be involved in marketing, and I promote health and wellness, help employees at businesses get and stay healthy. And a lot of that is because I was working for an ad agency, always on the creative end, and I found myself with a diagnosis of high blood pressure. I won't go into that right now, but I realized in order to stay alive and be alive, I had to start working in a business that I needed to be accountable, and that was one way. Yeah. That was one way to do it. So again, I'm a creator, and I'm always filled with ideas.
Why? Why do I do what I do? Let me tell you. My why is to use my presence and my prose to inspire you to go all in on you so that you live a legacy worth leaving.
I had a craft drawer, and I was always creating things at the table, and I'd make a huge mess. I always remember at the end, I would create an art project and, proudly display it. So I've really been creating all my life, whether it be sitting down by the Fox River drawing or writing a story. And it's just in me. When I went to school, a friend of mine, I went to NWTC for graphic design, and I looked at the incredible artwork that she put together, and I remember thinking to myself, whoever bottles what she's creating is going to be rich someday. So I got a book on art licensing, and we got an art licensing agent on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, and we went to the Global Art Licensing Show with that agent. And all around Green Bay a few years ago, you could walk in a store and that artwork would be on wallpaper, on napkins, all over the place. So that was really fun. Awesome. So that was one of the adventures I got involved in. And then the latest project, It Makes Me Happy, actually started quite a few years ago. I was at dinner with some friends, and they were talking about how they had gone to TJ Maxx earlier in the day, and they started saying, well, dish towels make me happy. Then one of them grabbed a bar of soap and said, soap makes me happy. And my friend Beth, she said, Karla, we really need to create a business around this. What can we do? And I said, well, let's call it It Makes Me Happy. So we started putting a little book together with looking at different areas of happiness, whether it be movement or scents and smells or pets. And we created a little book that we self-published. And I gave each of the girls a copy of the book. I gave my coworkers copies of the book. And it kind of went dormant for a little while. And then I got divorced, and my life changed quite a bit. And, change can be hard, and it just kind of dusted off that project. And a coworker of mine, her and I, we were walking in the park one day, and she was kind of down, and I asked her what her favorite color was. And she kind of looked at me very perplexed, and she said, I have no idea. And so that started something in her, and the idea got resurrected. And then shortly after that, I started, because we really wanted to the book and turn it into something that more people could use. So I got about a dozen or so girls together over the summer. We met in my backyard, and every week we went through some of the content and just formed these beautiful friendships. And we started calling that Circle of Friends. And we still get together, and that concept is spreading.
That's awesome. And so how do you market that? How do you take that curriculum, right? That process, that journey, with it, if it makes you happy, how do you find other folks to impact with that? Do you guys have a process there as far as like how you, or is it kind of like word of mouth, or how does that work?
We are getting started, and right now we're following a PDSA process, which is essentially Plan, Do, Study, Act. So basically what we've done is we've found a development partner who's testing it out with his employees. So we put together some videos, refined some of the content, and what we're doing is sharing a video every month. We're sharing some worksheets every month, and then getting together with the people and just kind of talking in a small circle. It's a safe space where people can share who they are, and then they're posting what makes them happy. Yeah. And so it's spreading that way. So it's really, even though it's been around for a little while, it's still in the development phase. And of course, since we originally developed it to now, we have social media, videos are so much easier to use. So it's just really prime for taking to the bigger market. But from a health and well-being standpoint, essentially, who doesn't want to be happy?
Yeah. Yeah, well, and maybe that kind of anticipates a question I was looking to ask it. Like, what's the big deal about trying to figure out what your favorite color is, and what's the big deal about trying to, be conscious of what makes you happy in life? Like, why is that important? And why has that been impactful? Because you've been seeing some impact, right?
Exactly.
So help us understand like the value behind what it is that you're actually doing with it makes me happy.
That's a great question, and I will share. How many different curriculums say you have to love yourself first? They pretty much all say that. But the question is, love myself first, but how? How do I love myself? I have all of these commitments. And what we're finding is so many people, they don't have a clue about what their favorite color is or what makes them happy. So it's just two simple questions, but at the same time, what that really does is it causes an individual to pause and reevaluate who they are, and instead of continually giving to their job, giving to other people, just say, well, again, who am I? Because we give and we give and we give, but we have to take that time for self-care. So it's a small opportunity, and it sounds so simple. Who am I? Who are you? What makes you happy? But there's theories out there as well. There's this, it's called Velcro Teflon theory, that says if you pause for a moment, and I can say one of my favorite things that makes me happy is when the lilacs bloom in spring. I've lived in Alloway now for, since 1992, so I know all of the best places for the lilacs. And I'll go for a walk, and I will literally just stop and breathe them in. And that's just something that I've always done. But now this theory says that when you take that in for 15 seconds, it actually rewires your brain. So then the next time, that I smell the lilacs, that memory is going to come back. So it actually it's those moments of happiness that then lead to joy. Yeah. So just those little moments. So we basically call that the 15-second rule. And you can address that in all different areas of life. I have a cat named Lenny, and he's a ragamuffin, and he requires love. So whenever I come home, he's at the back door. I pick him up, I snuggle with him, and that makes me happy, and I just really appreciate that. So whenever I think of that moment or anticipate it, I get those endorphins, those happy feelings. So identifying what makes you happy in all different areas of your life, that then becomes a way of being.
Yeah. I think that's important. If I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying, and so maybe some of the pushback that you get is, well, how do I have time to do what makes me happy? And you're saying you don't have 15 seconds.
Exactly.
To step outside and go smell. You don't have 15 seconds to go snuggle your cat or your kid, or sometimes when we're thinking about making change and layering on different habits over previously bad ones, we think in terms of like it has to be some kind of massive action, a massive life-changing thing, and you're saying it's actually smaller than that.
Exactly.
To where like your pursuit of the things that bring you joy and happiness isn't at odds with caring for your family or giving yourself to your work, right? But it should be this integrated whole. And it seems that there can be kind of two ditches that we fall into. One would be maybe we are too selfish. We only think about ourselves and we're ignoring everything else, right? And that seems like that'd be one ditch where we love ourselves so much and care about ourselves so much that we're starting to ignore everything else and our family, our kids, or whatever it might be. The other ditch is that we have this idea of, well, I'm supposed to just, sacrifice for everyone else. And what you're saying is, well, yeah, if you give all your bread away, what bread do you have to eat for yourself? And it kind of goes back to that fundamental principle of like that the common denominator of all leadership is self-leadership. The common denominator of all government is self-government, right? And you work out from concentric circles where you manage and you govern and you discipline yourself, you lead yourself, and when you do that, then you can lead others, and then you can lead teams and organizations and groups of people, right? And the same thing is how we would care for ourselves and equip ourselves and feed ourselves, all that kind of stuff. I mean, for instance, I've got kiddos at home and a wife, and if I just if I gave them my food every day and my water, and I stopped eating and drinking because I'm sacrificing, I'm giving it to them, I'm going to die, right?
Exactly.
Now I'm a big guy, so it might take me a while, but but I think the point is clear that you have those two ditches, and it seems like sometimes in our day and age, sometimes people are kind of pushing that self-sacrifice direction. Exactly. And then sometimes people give like the self-care idea like a bad rap, like, well, that just sounds selfish. Well, no, it's this sweet spot in the middle of the two ditches. Self-care doesn't mean ignore all of your other responsibilities. Exactly. And what it actually looks like when you apply it in your life, right? Because that was that question you're talking about, like, what does it actually look like to care for yourself or to love yourself, whatever it is, can actually be easier to apply than we think. And it comes back to that 15-second rule. Just go. Do you enjoy lilacs? Do you like that lavender color and the smell? Just make it a part of your morning ritual, right? And you can build in 15 seconds into your day. That can be really, really powerful in the long run. Yeah. So I mean, I see the wheels turning. Do you have thoughts on that?
Oh, that's exactly it. Yeah. And thank you for sharing those examples. Because just a little example, I love the homemade soup at the Right Place on Alloway Avenue, and I went and got some soup the other night, and it was right around sunset, and I turned off my car, I was walking in, and I looked at the sky, and it was purple, it was orange, it was golden. And I was going to keep walking, and I stopped, and I turned around, I took it in, and then I took a picture, and I posted it, and, called that the 15-second rule. And then the neatest thing happened. Everybody else started posting that same sunset. So it's beautiful. So that's how all of this spreads. And what you were saying, it made me think of a couple things. Back to, again, giving yourself away, not taking care of yourself. Many, many years ago, I came up with this little saying that martyrs don't get brownie points. And, martyrs die. And at the same time, there's something about connecting with others, and I'm a firm believer in this. So if you can kind of envision, we have to connect with that deeper part of ourselves, because it's not fun to be with people all the time. So we have this opportunity to connect with that deeper part of ourselves, that little boy or girl that just got lit up when we were a kid. I think of all my times, carp fishing with my friends along the Fox River, or I'd also bring my sketch pad and just start sketching and literally watch the water go by. I love that. So connecting within, then connecting up to some sort of higher power, spirit, God, the universe, whatever that might be, an older version of yourself. So just really being integrated and connected that way. And then finally, we can connect out to others, where we're all coming together in that connected space. But that's not really going to work unless, again, back to the, who are we, what makes us happy? And then we can share in this joy, literal joy in everyday living.
How do I do what I do? Well, for me, there's one overarching ultimate principle: to give you more in use value than I take in cash value. It'd be like if I wrote a book and you bought that book for $10, but that book gave you a $1 million idea. I have effectively given you more in use value than I've taken from you in cash value. And that's exactly what I aim to do with what not to do.
You gave me some homework to do.
I did.
And it's fun because it's part of the curriculum. It's not the whole thing, but it's part of it. And it kind of walked you through like this, a handful of questions. I think it was maybe 12 questions about various, things in life, from tastes to senses to, hobbies, and just kind of walked you through a basic exercise as far as like who I am, what makes me happy, right?
We call that the 12 areas for happiness. Exactly.
There you go, yeah. And so then the last page, I think out of 4 pages, was a big picture of a big smiley face. But the rest of the page is relatively blank, and the point was you have to color it in, right? And you could embellish it however you wanted to. You could use words or symbols, but just to represent some of those things that make you happy. And it was a fun exercise. And so people will probably see the picture of mine because we were holding them up in our picture together, which was a lot of fun. And but it struck me. So I did the coloring last night. And I'm sitting there, and the rest of my family's in bed, and I'm sitting at the kitchen table with crayons. It's like, when was the last time I did that, And such a simple exercise that we would just say, well, that's kind of like a child's deal. Like how cool that can be for an adult, And you think about, the old kind of saying, like, having faith like a child, like a 5-year-old, you don't have to tell a 5-year-old to dream. You can hardly keep him in the house to not want to go conquer the world. But somewhere between 5 and 25, we were taught that, not only is, dreams are for, not really worth it, but they're foolish. Like, we were taught to stop dreaming. Like, there wasn't any virtue in that, And it kind of brought me back to this idea of like, no, like, dream big. Like, recall, like, what are the things throughout your life that has made you happy, right? And
exactly.
And then ask, so what's the reason that those things, if assuming they're not, what's the reason that those things aren't a part of my life today, right? Why couldn't they be, right? And say, well, I couldn't do this or I couldn't do that. Well, sure, maybe I'm not going to go move out to Montana because I love the mountains. Or maybe I could. But maybe it means, hey, let's get some really nice, Ansel Adams artwork in my house. Like, because I can see these beautiful landscapes of mountains that really just fuel me, right? And what I love about that is the simplicity and the accessibility to just taking steps towards just personal joy and happiness, right? And not to think of these things as bad things or at odds. But look, my guess is that the happier I am, the happier my family will be.
Exactly.
Right?
It
and
spreads.
maybe that's the big thing there, because it's like when you're happy and you're joy and you're fulfilled, you tend to want to pour yourself out all the more, right? But maybe when we're unhappy, we start to kind of regress and shrivel up inside, and we start to become less and less helpful or beneficial to those around us. So it's kind of interesting how we go in that self-sacrificial mode, and we actually, I'm verbally processing right now, we go in that self-sacrificial mode, and we actually end up being of less benefit to others around us. Whereas if we actually took the time to cultivate the things that make us happy, it actually makes us, in a sense, a bigger person with more to be able to give, which is really what we want in the first place. Does that make sense?
That makes so much sense. And the way I like to look at what you're describing, I've come to the conclusion, I'm over 50 now, so
But you look wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I've come to the conclusion that there's two things in life, and it's love and fear. And if you think of a spreadsheet, love on one side, fear on the other side. And love faces the truth. So on the love side of life, we have these mountaintop moments, and that's the joyful feelings. And then we also have painful feelings. And that joy and pain, they live in the same spots in our heart. And I think oftentimes, and I know myself in particular because I love those joyful moments, and I've done everything in my life to avoid the pain. And unfortunately, what we do when we try to avoid the pain, we jump to that other side, which is fear. And that's where oftentimes we try to control a situation. And when we try to control a situation or another person, that's where we get anxious. Sometimes that's where we get depressed. And at the same time, back to, I think in pictures, I think of love as a sunshine, and I think of fear as literally being in a pit. So the sunshine envelops others. That's where we can connect. Again, we connect with our deeper selves, we connect with a higher power, spirit, and we connect with each other. Versus if you're in a cold, dark pit, you can't hear anything. It's cold, it's dark, you're afraid, you're scared, and no one can hear you either. So you're in there all by yourself. So that's where, again, back to staying on that love side. And oftentimes I find when you're in that love side, it's important to face the truth because life is ugly sometimes. But if you face that ugliness, then you can make peace with it and accept it as reality versus jumping to that other side and trying to change something that simply is. And you're going to spend your time spinning and missing out on these beautiful moments and missing out on life.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it.
Oh,
and it made me think exactly what you just said as far as, sometimes life is ugly. But if we try to pretend that it's not and everything's just a bed of roses or lilacs or whatever it is, we're actually missing the point. But to actually just objectively say, hey, this is how it is. Now, how am I going to live? How am I going to respond? How am I going to choose to be, my attitude, how I carry myself? Am I going to give myself to love or to fear? And the other thing I really liked about your connection with love and the sun, I think about light and heat, and when someone is just, when they're filled with joy and they're filled with love, right, it radiates from them. And not only do they shine, but you feel it.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
that energy.
And it's you want to be around that person. You want to just be around them. It's, it's like a campfire. At night, it's you feel the light and the heat. It's like the sun during the day, and you're out on the beach, and it just envelops you. It just feels so good, Or on those October days in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where the air is cool, but then you feel the rays of the sun. It's just gorgeous, I love that picture, and especially because how it, of being love being something that radiates from us, not only in light, but also in heat. People can see it and they can feel it.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It was your idea. So. Well, so why? You're giving yourself to really, really cool work, but you could probably do 100 different things in life. So you keep getting out of bed every morning and wanting to give yourself to these things. What for you, Karla, is that greater purpose or aim or goal in life that keeps you giving yourself to this work?
The why for me, it came about in an interesting way. Again, I mentioned I went to Catholic school. And I remember in first grade, we were sitting waiting for Mass, and you know how some people say that still small voice? I heard a voice that said, "You're special." And I remember looking around, did Pam hear that voice? Did Julie hear that voice? I heard that voice. And so I think I stood up a little straighter, and I knew that I was special. And then in 7th grade, I got to go to Italy for my 13th birthday. I have an uncle who's a priest, and he was leading a group, and my aunt at the time was single and wanted my mom to go. And my parents have never flown on a plane. They're happy being where they are. And just prior to that, in 6th grade, we had a teacher that showed us a bunch of travel videos. And I remember seeing the videos on Italy and wanting to go there. So anyway, I got to spend my 13th birthday in Florence, Italy. I came back from that trip changed forever. And the teacher called me to the back of her desk, a Catholic nun, and she said, "Karla, I think you're being called to be a nun." And at 13 years old, and I was wearing these ugly glasses, I'm like, no. I was so mad at her. And I knew that I like boys and I don't like rules. So that was the last thing that I wanted to do. But life comes full circle. I connected with my 7th grade teacher a few years ago, and she offers spiritual direction sessions. And I met with her, and I continued to meet with her, and she just basically said, "I saw something in you." And that's where there is this, I believe, a calling on my life to connect people with each other, with their deeper selves, and then also with some sort of spiritual connection. And so I would say my purpose in life, my why, is to help others find their purpose. And they can find that first by figuring out who they are and what makes them happy. And I believe that's how we're going to heal the world.
You know the why and you know the how. So what? What is it that we're going after? Well, our big, hairy, audacious goal is to inspire 1 billion people to live a legacy worth leaving by 2030. That's 100 million people per year for the next 10 years. And my friend, it starts with you. This podcast is for you, it's about you, and I couldn't do it without you.
It seems like there is a great famine of purpose in our day and age. Mm-hmm. People don't really know what they want. They don't really know what they're called to. It seems like a lot of people are kind of falling into paths that are chosen for them, rather than really being clear on what they want and choosing their path. And I applaud that. I think it's a wonderful thing to be able to give your life to that work and to really help people to be clear on who they are and what they want, and then go get it, right? Mm-hmm. And it kind of goes back to that mystery somewhere between 5 and 25. Like, at 5 years old, we knew what we wanted. We went after it, Mm-hmm. We went and conquered the world, right? There was a cosmos to be conquered, and you couldn't keep them in, right? And by the time we're 25, we're, up to our eyeballs in debt, and a job that might not even correspond to what we majored in, and
exactly.
Generally not engaged and happy, and we live for the weekends, right? Because that's what we spent the past, 22 years doing. And I think that's a fine path if you choose that path, right? And if that's what you, after getting really clear on your purpose and all that kind of stuff, and that's what you want, great. Go work for someone else and go do that. But I think, and I even think for an employer, having employees that were clear on their purpose and clear on what they wanted and clear on who they were would see just worlds different in impact and value that organization can bring when you have a workforce that's engaged. I think the stat floating around is 85% of the current workforces, they're not happy, they're not engaged, and it's a massive issue. And my speculation is it has to do with, I wonder if they really know what they want in life.
And that's where, back to my day job, and I do lead a team as well, and I'm a firm believer in identifying individuals' strengths that then become the team strengths. Yeah. And people that have been on the team or left the team, they all say the same thing. And I'm an instigator, as I said, and identifying those strengths in people, I kind of poke them a little bit. It's like, I think you should go do this, or come to this meeting with me, and there might be like 5 executives there, and send this message out so that individual can be seen. But when people are using their strengths, that's where, again, work is fun.
Yeah.
And there's a movie out there, it's called The Happy Movie. It's available on Netflix and Prime. And there's a quote from the movie that I use all the time, and that's, collaboration is like cocaine. I will say I've never tried cocaine, but I know I do the co-design, the collaboration piece, and it just lights me up and everyone in the room. And to see what happens and how we can create something so much better as a group than any one person could have imagined. And I see that time and time again.
It's that synergistic effect where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
It is.
Yeah.
Because it is. Yeah. Absolutely.
Love it. Okay. So let's get into the juicy details of failure, right?
Oh, I've got so much experience with that.
Yeah, well, the podcast is called What Not to Do, and it's fun. It's it's different. There's a lot out there in our day and age that is helping folks, giving really good advice and instruction and direction, and a lot of that what you guys are doing, which is awesome. I think the other side to that coin is what not to do. Sometimes when we have options in life, it can feel like we're in the middle of an ocean, and we can swim 360 different directions. Where do we even begin? And so I think oftentimes when we're not sure what to do, one of the best places to start is with what not to do, right? We can narrow the field of view, and it's not the end all be all. We'll think through other frameworks, other lenses to help us make sure the right decision and get in the right direction. But a good place to start is with, hey, let's just eliminate a few things here, right? Get a little bit clear, a little bit more focused, and take a few steps in the right direction. And I think that's important, especially when you're figuring out your purpose and your calling in life. The work that you want to give yourself to do, what are you good at, what do you enjoy doing, and what are your economic opportunities, and how can all those 3 things align? That can be challenging. There's some folks kind of push back against telling a kid that they can be anything that they want to be, and I get why you'd want to push back against that, because if you just left it there, it'd be like dropping that kid off in the middle of the ocean to fend for himself, and then suddenly the chains become, the options become chains, and the kid can drown if there's not any, if there's not a moving past that to then, hey, okay, you can be anything you want to be. Great, that's the first side. The second side is, what do you want to be, right? And then you kind of get clear on the calling and the purpose, and then reverse engineer that. It's okay, let's make a plan, and then you can help to shepherd that, and the plan can change, but at least there's the clear direction and traction now, and they know how to swim. And so it seems that if there's a societal failure, I don't think it's in telling our kids that they can be anything that they want to be, or that they have so many options and to dream big. I actually think it's a really, really good thing. I think the failure has been on the second part of that, is actually giving direction. And maybe parents do, I think, the best that they can. So it's not like it's some kind of intentional, we want the next generation to fail, but I think generally they try to do the best that they can. But that said, because we want that, we don't want the next generation to have to reinvent the wheel. I think what's really important is to be able to open up to all failures. In our day and age, we love to Photoshop our failures, right?
Absolutely.
And you'd get that as a marketing gal. Mm-hmm. And, but even Facebook, Instagram, it's like we got a filter for that. Snapchat, I can have butterflies fluttering around my head, and I don't really, And not that there's anything wrong with those things that are fun. When those things take a deeper place in our lives, and we start to think through our lives in terms of filters and photoshopping and sweeping things under the rug, rather than saying like, hey buddy, I don't want you to make the same mistake I have. Let me tell you a story. You're going to have plenty of your own mistakes because you're a human, right? But I want you to go further faster than I could, and I want to help equip you for success in that regard. That gets at the heart of what we're doing here.
All right, I'm getting deep on you guys, and it's only Thursday. What are you photoshopping in your life? What filters are you running to make yourself look better to the world? And do you really actually look better? Or are you someone that you're not? So it's really interesting, that whole idea of social media and how great a tool it is, and yet how it can totally toy and play with our minds and our perceptions of ourselves and the world around us. And so this is an opportunity just to think on what it looks like to be you, right? Who are you? What do you enjoy? What are you good at? What are your opportunities? To know yourself, to know your purpose here, to know the specific gift that you have to offer the world, and then to give everything you have and unleash it in service to the world around you. So I hope you've enjoyed this first half of this conversation with Karla. I love it. I love the idea of doing what makes you happy, as long as it's making you happy. It actually is leading you to become the best version of yourself, and not a pseudo happiness that drives you around and pushes you and pulls you with every little breeze that might come your way. That's not that, but even just the power of taking 15 seconds to smell the flowers, or to bask in the sunlight, to lean into things like that make you happy, and that are drawing you to become the best possible version of yourself. We'll stay tuned tomorrow for part 2. We're going to dive into Karla's favorite failure, and it's awesome. So I hope you enjoyed this, and we will see you guys tomorrow. It's been said that the good men learn from their own mistakes, but great men, they learn from the mistakes of others. So go and be great. We'll see you next time.